Welcome and thanks for sticking around. We got game 2 of the MSI on the books here. Of course, I'm Dolson, and joining me on the desk, none other than the man Kresnik himself. Great to have you back. Good to have you here for the MSI. Of course, Space Station is playing, I guess, Tuesday is when you guys will start. So might have you around here for the next couple of days. But good to have you back. It's fun to watch. The sort of console versus PC is sort of been the talk of the town today. Any takeaways from game number 1?
About what I expected. I think not in terms of like the score,
sure,
but I think just in terms of what console brought out and that they really can bring a fight. I mean, I think most players in NA were expecting Elevate to put up a fight, and I think
they did.
Looking at this matchup coming up, I think people would expect Flashpoint to be the other team to do the same.
Right. I mean, it's Flashpoint Sanguine for matchup number 2. Flashpoint, actually very similar storyline to what Elevate brought. They won every single game, 12-0 throughout the split, only dropped 2 maps. Gore and I like to poke a little fun. That was to Stush down there. Complete opposites. Stush took a couple maps off of them, but still a force to be reckoned with, of course. I mean, a team that a lot of people would group up with Elevate kind of in that same regard, and a team that people will say have maybe a good shot at upseeding one of these minor league teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking at like the predictions and stuff that like Blue did on Twitter from the console corner. I think Flashpoint was one of the most predicted for, I believe, coming into this. I think they have the second most players using M&K and keyboards.
That's
true.
They
have like 3, I believe.
Right.
I could be wrong. It's all hearsay, honestly. You know.
We'll find out. I'm sure we'll find out one way or another. But it's going to be exciting to look at. Of course, you have to look at the guy on Flashpoint. All eyes are on him. Prosper Logic throughout the console league split. He's been a force to be reckoned with for sure, tearing down teams left and right. And he's back here at LAN looking to do more of the same. It's been interesting in that last set, we only really saw the true, I say, quote, console lineup, in that they drafted Victor and Vivian, and it worked out pretty well for them. Do you think that's something maybe console can identify in Prosper, that he's so good on like a Victor, so good on a Vivian? Maybe not ban it away, but have play styles drafted around it?
Oh, you mean like for the console to play with Prosper Logic?
Like, do you think that PC has strategies surrounding playing against somebody like Prosper Logic on a Victor, seeing as he's so good on that champion?
I mean, I would say so. I mean, especially looking at the meta right now on PC, right? We know Victor's kind of coming back in. Vivian, Tyra have been something that other teams and my own team personally have brought back into the mix. Teams are definitely more ready, I think, to play against that kind of strategy.
Right.
I don't know if they'd prepare in particular, because I mean, I'm not sure about the ego level on PC teams going into this, but they definitely would have strategies against the automatics, considering their shift back into the meta.
Well, it's a guy you have to consider, whether you fully draft against him or you just identify him as somebody to look out for. Prosper Logic, top to bottom, is a guy who really looked to move this Flashpoint team forward. I mean, they're a storied team. They have a lot of past success in LANs in the console league, and again, they're going to look to make waves here today. And then, of course, the entire roster. I mean, they're playing like a complete team. I mean, as we watched their games throughout the console league, none of them were really all that close. Every once in a while, Stush would take a map, but if you look at Elevate, they didn't lose a single map in the console league. Flashpoint have only lost 2, so maybe a similar matchup. Maybe without diving too far in, do you think Sanguine is a better matchup for Flashpoint than Sour Team was for Elevate?
That's really hard to say.
That's a hard question,
Elevate,
but
I mean,
they're different.
Yeah, Elevate had a sub too.
True.
And that way they performed that well with a sub. So thinking Flashpoint's on the same level, I mean, it could be a hard matchup for Sanguine specifically.
Right.
Sanguine as a team, they had a big roster shift in the middle of the season, and they performed pretty well. Right after it. But then I believe they just got devastated by Hype Unit, I think, in their last matchup, right?
Yeah, and they're a team that's, I mean, kind of had some ups and downs, as you said, throughout the split. Edgem, of course, on the Sanguine lineup. He's kind of the counter, in my eyes, to Prosper Logic. If Prosper's going to be able to kind of free farm the damage in the backline, you're going to need Edgem to come up big and make these big plays. Do you sort of see it in a similar way?
I mean, Edgem is someone who has been proven at LAN before. His one last previous LAN with big egos, eliminating my team, and I think having a pretty solid performance against PPL teams. He's definitely a player to look for on this roster. He's pretty flexible across a lot of different characters, and he can definitely make a lot of use of the space that his tanks and Neo make for him. You know,
it's interesting, sort of removing from this particular matchup to just the console versus PC matchup in general. Eevee was sort of the big topic of conversation, because that champion's so powerful on PC, just the flick ability, and not as powerful, to be honest, on the side of console. I think, I'm trying to remember in our last matchup, Eevee was definitely banned out a few times, but in general, we didn't see any of that high-level, like, super mobile flank coming through on the side of PC. Do you think that that console has just found a good way to answer back some of what the PC meta might be bringing?
I mean, console banned Eevee on
That's
the maps
true,
where they thought it was going
You're
to be a problem. They didn't ban her on maps like Ice Mines where it wasn't going to be too good, but I mean Flashpoint against a player like Neo who can be flexible across, Bomb King, Drogo's, Eevee. I think he's definitely someone they should be worried about on that character.
I agree. I think very much so what you just said, and we saw this throughout the minor league against some of the best teams in the minor league. Neo, top to bottom, whether it's Bomb King, whether it's Pip, any of these blaster players, he'll make his presence known. The King Bombs are always on point. The damage is always on point. And absolutely, I agree. That's something Flashpoint need to identify. How are you going to deal with Neo? You have Edgem, you have Neo. That's a 1-2 punch to be reckoned.
I was actually specifically going to bring up this game when you mentioned those characters. I was going to say his Exaction Cassie. This was his first game back after a break.
Yeah.
He was out of the scene for a little while, and then Zenith needed a player, picked him up, and he just showed up on Exaction Cassie after not playing the game at all. And I'm pretty sure, I hope they show the end of this clip, because I'm pretty sure he just taunts in their spawn after wiping their team with a Torv bubble.
Doesn't surprise
I think it's right here. No, it's fine. He taunts. I promise he taunts.
I believe it. I mean, he's a guy, I always found it funny. I don't know if it's like game or Twitch or whatever it is, but he's always spraying in the middle of these team fights, whether it's just to be ready for a replay or
and I was on his
team.
It's burned into my skull,
he's
the spray noise.
Well, we talked a little bit about Edgem, and we do have an interview with him standing by. Nick is on the mic. Let's hear what he has to say.
All right, guys, thanks so much down here in the Sanguine booth with Mr. Edgem. Now, after watching that first set, I don't know how much death ball we're really expecting. What are your thoughts on the console play after that first game?
Well, Elevate's mostly on console, as opposed to Flashpoint that are mostly on PC. So I assumed that they were going to do stuff like that, and obviously told me their strat. Outside of me being friends with them, I would have never expected some death ball 5-on-point comps like that. But I'm glad that Sal were able to adapt and get the win in the end.
I mean, that was really the full commitment to that style of play. They left nothing left to be desired with a death ball strat. With a team like Flashpoint, who is playing a little bit more, not fully on mouse and keyboard, but a little bit more in that direction. What are the major differences? Do you expect we'll see any EV or more blaster play from them?
Yeah, I definitely think the champions that are more dominant on PC will be showing up a lot more in this set because they are mostly on mouse and keyboard, as we just said. And then we'll probably see less likely anyways to see the 5-point strats or whatever else, like Sky first picks and stuff like that.
I mean, just from the outside looking in, yes, those pushed it to 3-3, but arguably the closest Elevate got in that set against our team was when they really kind of, made it more standard. Had that double backline DPS. That's what I'm predicting a little bit more from these console teams as we see the rest of the day. Is this what you would expect? Did you have a lot of time to sort of scrim and prepare against console teams to really get a feel for them?
The only really time we ever scrimmed Flashpoint was a while ago, which I'm not sure if they were on mouse and keyboard at the time, but the scrims went pretty well for us. But obviously scrims are scrims. Anything can happen on tournament day. People get nervous, everything can switch up. So I'm just keeping my eyes peeled for what's to come.
Last question, you nervous at all today?
No, of course not.
I don't get that impression, guys. Thank you so much for talking with us, Mr. Edge, and we're going to get back up to the desk and keep this set moving.
Thank you, guys. Edgem feeling confident, as they should be. They're one of the best minor league teams that we have, so they'll come in today feeling pretty good. And one thing that we had kind of talked offhand about, and they actually mentioned in the interview, is sort of the transition. They are playing against a console team, but a lot of the guys, given that Flashpoint's success at MSI or position at MSI was pretty much locked into place throughout the first, half of the PCL. They were pretty certainly going, so they could start to maybe branch out, go to mouse and keyboard a little bit. Do you think that changes the dynamic of this set, playing against a mouse and keyboard console team rather than them on the thumbsticks?
I think the teams will respect some of the PC picks a little more, because I know that these teams kind of didn't even pick Cassie a lot in the season. Koa kind of went a little further down. I think they'll respect the PC picks more, be more willing to play around it, maybe even ban it in some cases. And they've been able to scrim again on mouse and keyboard for a pretty long time. Pretty much as soon as their spot is locked in, they could do it. And I believe Flashpoint was the second most dominant region, right? Only 2 maps dropped.
Yeah, right. Only two maps dropped, and that's kind of what we see going down the list today. No maps dropped for Elevate game number 1. 2 maps dropped for Flashpoint. I think 4 maps dropped in our next matchup as well. Stone Keep, map number 1. We saw Ice Mines as the first map in our last game, and that lended itself, I think, to what Elevate were trying to do. That was a good map that I think catered pretty well to the Death Volley composition that they have going there. And this is this is where things could change. You look at the desk there, a couple mouse and keyboards, a couple controllers. Sanguine and Edgem said it very well. They're definitely not overlooking anybody on the opposite side. And you saw how much of a fight Elevate could put up. Sanguine are expecting Flashpoint to do the same, and I think Flashpoint could sneak up here. If they get some good drafts, if they start to roll the way they can, they could take a few maps, maybe even the game over Sanguine.
Oh, yeah, I think so, absolutely. I mean, these console players have been in this scene forever. They're experienced.
Absolutely.
It's not like LAN nerves are going to affect them too much. And I think so far, I think they've done their research with the start of this. The BK ban, it's kind of like, I mean, it was almost kind of a joke when I was on Neo's team, but like it really is kind of just like the people who play against Neo ban Bomb King.
Right.
It's been like that since almost the end of 2017. Like, I'm not even, that's actually that long of a stretch. So clearly they've done their research into Sanguine. So that makes me think they haven't written themselves off, you know? They want to flip this game.
I absolutely agree. And it's a good ban to have up against Neo as well. Sanguine going right into Ash Cassie. Cassie played a big part in the Sour team win. In our last set of the day, I imagine more of the same here in this Sanguine set. Edgem very deadly, but we also saw that Neo can play the Cassie as well. I mean, you can't be certain. Both of those players so flexible that just because you see a Cassie doesn't mean it's going to be Edgem, doesn't mean it's going to be Neo. They have the ability to flex on any of those champions. Flashpoint answering back with Conbarrack Genos. Good start. Pretty standard, though.
This is a PC draft.
It's a PC draft, yeah.
Yeah, and Cassie, great pick, I think, early for Sanguine because it can go to either of them. You know, like, this doesn't lock them into anything in the draft, and they're leaving DPS open at the end. Kind of a hybrid, sustainy, aggressive comp. Ash with the lifesteal keeps herself alive for a long time. Inara Damba, a classic combination. Speed boost lets the Inara get aggressive, and keeps her alive with the damage reduction with the Mother's Grace. Really solid draft from Sanguine, but Flashpoint, if they get a pretty mobile draft, they could kind of play the surround game on Stone Keep. If they, you know, they're just going to give up Keep, I think, at this point. They're going to give up the castle side. Maybe try to go double backline, win both sides through the church. They have a lot of options open, I think, right now.
Still have Victor Vivian. That's what we saw work out so well. I mean, they didn't get the win, but Elevate played Victor Vivian wonderful, having a great performance in that last map. This is a map, Stone Keep as well, where that could do pretty well.
This is a phenomenal map for Victor.
Yeah,
it really
absolutely. We've seen him we saw him in the PPL a few times over the past few weeks. But Talus, you never get to play Talus in the console league. They're always banning him out. Talus Leon. If you didn't see the team names at the top, you'd think this was a console draft.
I mean,
maybe minus Talus.
The start, it looked very it looked very different. You know, like it looked like a PC draft from the start. The Talus is something that we actually didn't see last set at all.
No.
Kind of surprising considering his ban rate in the PCL. I don't know the exact numbers.
It's high.
I will tell you high. At least in the week I was there, it was really high. Leon picked up maybe to counter a flanker from Sanguine, but Sanguine decides to go for the backline pip instead. I would expect this to be Catalyst, unlike the Mega ran by Elevate before, but I think this is actually a good draft from both sides. I want to see how the Talus pulls off, because the Talus into Pip isn't bad. Pip's head is huge.
Right.
That's free headshot, especially if you're on a controller, you know?
That's right. Do you think the Leon comes into play? I mean, that she's been tweaked and moved out of the meta, still kind of niche. If you really love Leon, you can still play her and still do very well. How do you think she'll fare in this matchup?
I think this is one of her best maps. I'm not concerned about the viability of the Leon in this matchup.
Right.
I think both teams have a solid draft. I really just want to see how this Talus pick pans out.
Not too much cheesiness to start off this one. We had a lot in our last set, but pretty standard drafts coming out here. We'll have to see how it plays out, but first we'll have to go down to the casters.
Thank you guys so much. Was that a height joke? Go down to the cat at this point.
It's because, I mean, him and Nick just tower over everybody.
Now that I'm back, he thinks he can pick on both of us. Yeah, I get it. We're standing on boxes, but that doesn't mean that we're not able to see through to the strength that is Sanguine. That is Flashpoint. That is Rain and Gormizer on the mic here for you. Gore, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. That was a little faster than I expected set one to go.
Ooh, yeah.
But this one, I mean, it's just one of those things. You're playing with the sub. It's kind of expected when you get to LAN if you have a sub that you're not going to be able to hold up. I'm interested to see where Flashpoint stand now. They have full power.
They do. Full power, true power. You could say they've got a lot of inner strength as well to be able to go through and dominate this game. They're going to have to come back to us for a second as we get a few things ready for this game to really launch. Players want to make sure everything is just right as well. As we take you back to the party, boys, this is really where the action is anyways. Me and Gore always have something interesting going on. I like the tie, by the way.
Thank you. Came with a pocket square. I had to make the difficult decision of vest or jacket today.
And are you in the position of wearing an actual pocket watch, or is that just style?
It is an actual pocket
Take notes. Nick Keogh Actually, I joked with Pretty Hair so much around this exact thing that he actually ended up getting
if I hold it there, you can see
a
my
pocket
initials.
watch. That's a beautiful. Wow, he's got. Wow. All right. Well,
Nailed it.
Too much fun.
Style on point, baby. Let's go.
Stall and style on point. Look at that. The double S's, double trouble. As we get ready in, the sound starts flooding for the game. We're going to bring you the second set of the MSI. Flashpoint versus Sanguine here. And already Baller Steve helping out Edgem as they take high control of the Stonekeep.
I mean, doing whatever they can. I'm very much interested, just like the desk was, in how this Talus performs. Prosper has been known for his Talus, although I think Skeppy, in my mind, typically stands out as the Talus over him, but either one can pick it up. Either one can play it well. Same thing goes for the Leon on this team. It's two incredibly talented hit scan players that this was a change they made. They picked up Skeppy specifically for this LAN. It's something they've wanted pretty much since, what, week 3, week 4, week 5? It was very early on in the league. He's going to have to show up a little more than that.
And big kill as well.